Hey there, Colleen here, DIYer behind LemonThistle.com, and today I am so excited to share this deck makeover with you all. So this is my sister's house. She bought her first home a few months ago, and we are so excited to be able to come down and help out with some projects around her house. This deck makeover we managed to take on in just a weekend thanks to some tools from Wagner Spray Tech. Big thank you to them for partnering on this video to make this makeover possible in such a short amount of time. Before we get into the video, if you have not yet subscribed, please do that below so you don't miss out on any more DIY or home decor videos. All right, so I am here in Calgary at my sister's new house. This is her first house, and we are gonna help her do some projects, and the first one is this deck here. So we're basically gonna give it a fresh coat of paint and update it. You can see the paint here is chipping off. It's like it maybe wasn't prepped properly the last time it's painted. There's definitely at least 3 coats of paint on this wood. So we are going to, clean that off. There are some boards that are falling apart that we'll need to replace, and then we can give everything a fresh coat of paint. So we're gonna be painting the floor here as well as the railing. And then since we're painting the railing, I think we're also gonna paint all the trim on the house, which is bigger than just the deck, but we're excited about it. And then of course, we're gonna give it a bit of an aesthetic makeover too. She's got some new furniture, we've got a new light and, plants, all the good stuff. All right, so like I said, there was lots of pieces of wood that were damaged, they were rotting, or they were just falling apart. The deck was originally put down with nails, but to hold it in place, it had been nailed kind of extra times, and there was nails popping up all over the place. So our first order of business was to repair the deck. So we cleared it off, and we got started removing the damaged boards, and we cut the parts that were still good and put them back in place, and then replaced the damaged parts with new boards. We took everything apart just to figure out exactly what we needed before we took a trip to the hardware store. We also removed the damaged uprights on this railing, and you can see as we're putting it back together here, we are taking care to drill pilot holes before we screw into them, just to make sure that we don't split the new boards before we really get started. And you can see the corners here are mitered so clean. Shane did such a great job on this while we were working on the rest of the deck prep. So one of the things that we were preparing while he was doing that is the paint colors. We were looking for dark trim. She really wanted kind of a black and white look to this house, but something a little bit softer than a deep black. And then for the deck floor, we wanted something that would hide dirt, would look lighter than the trim, but also would be really warm and welcoming, not a really cold gray, since the color of the house is a warm bone color. All right, so after we chose the paint color and after we repaired the deck, it was time to prep it with sanding. In the past, when I have painted damaged surfaces like this, it was super time consuming. I would wire brush the loose paint off, and then I would go back and I would sand to kind of smooth over the areas that were rough. Because we were trying to do this all in one weekend, honestly, we didn't have time to do that, but also I have been dying to try this tool from Wagner. This is their paint eater. The paint eater is a disc sander, but instead of sandpaper, it has a spun fiber disc that is a little bit spongy, so it not only sands down the really rough parts, but it chips away all of the really loose chunks of paint. We went through 3 of these discs on the deck and really happy with how efficiently it worked and how easy it was to use. All right, so the next thing that we did is we primed the new boards that were a part of the railing. We weren't going to prime the entire railing. There was no need to, since the purple paint that was still there was still in really good shape. And the paint that we were using is a paint and primer in one. And we are priming so that the paint gives an even sheen on the painted surfaces and the new boards. So we did this late into the night. We worked through the night on these room makeovers. We drank so much coffee this weekend. So in the morning, we got back to work and we were ready for painting. You can see that we masked the house here with plastic, and then we just held up cardboard behind the railing to avoid taping to the railing directly. Now, we did this so that we could paint both sides of the railing at the same time. We also masked the posts that were holding up the deck roof. I laid cardboard down on the bushes or on the pathways as I worked to avoid overspray on the ground. As always, test out your paint sprayer on a piece of cardboard or scrap wood before you start on your project, just to get your spray pattern really dialed in. So the paint sprayer that I used for this project is the Wagner Flexio 2500, and this is one of their newer models. It's compact and it's super affordable, but it worked like a dream. I was so impressed with it. I have used a lot of the different Wagner sprayers, from this really affordable model to the higher end ones, and I have to say this was easy to work with. It did have less dials, so it had a high air pressure and a lower air pressure, which is great if you are new to a paint sprayer, and I was still able to adjust the spray pattern to vertical or horizontal for getting into all the little nooks along the railing. Okay, we got one coat on the fence. What do you think of the color?
I love it.
Yeah, it looks so good. We're like imagining plants beside it. I love it.
It's perfect.
So exactly like when I was staining my fence a couple months ago, you need to aim at all the sides of the board. So I found it easiest to go kind of up one side of the board, down the other side of the board, and then spray the center of the board to fill in the spray pattern. While this is a little bit more time consuming than just spraying the face, you're going to get really nice even coverage on all of the gaps between the board, which is really one of the pluses of using a paint sprayer for a project like this, is you don't have to spend so much time getting into all those little nooks and little crannies. Oh my goodness, it's so satisfying watching this railing go from purple and gray to this charcoal color. So I wanted to show here, even behind these support pieces that were holding up the roof, we masked them really well with tape, and we were just able to spray around them. We didn't have to get in there with a brush and kind of wiggle the brush to get it all covered. The coverage was amazing, even behind these posts. All right, so while the paint dried, I went ahead and I customized a doormat for them, and I am using the same technique that I have used for all the doormats that I have shared. I've made 4 or 5 now. I will link the video below with the full tutorial so that you can make one on your own. This one I'm just freehanding. We thought this saying was really cute, and she requested a little dog print to be added. It turned out adorable. So I worked on that doormat while the paint dried, and then after it was dry, we masked the railing off so that we could paint the deck floor, and we masked it without taping it directly to the railing. We used the little paint chips right here to protect overspray through the railing to the outside of the deck, and then I went ahead and I got priming. So I used that same heavy duty primer, and we're hoping that this primer will help this paint job last a lot longer than the one that was on there before. You can see when painting a surface down below like this, you'd want to have your pickup straw faced forward so you can kind of tilt your paint sprayer down. And then I find I just like to move slowly with a continuous spray as long as I can on each board to get a nice even finish. All right, so then here is a sneak peek at the deck color going on. It looks so good. And this is the only video that I have of this going on because we worked into the night again. We finished all the painting that evening, but we let it dry overnight before moving any of the furniture back on the next day. Now let's just remind ourselves of what it looked like before and during so that we can fully appreciate this after. It turned out so beautifully. We are so happy with these new colors and how replacing the damaged deck boards and hitting the nails back in really made this deck look so fresh. Updating the trim on the house and the light as well really finished off the whole makeover. We ended up taking off the swirls on the deck supports to paint, and we haven't put them back on yet. We think that we like it without. But you can just see how inviting and cozy this space is now that it's all made over with some new furniture and a beautiful rug. I wish that we didn't have to head out of town right away and that we could have stayed and enjoyed an evening on this patio. I'm still so impressed with us that we got this makeover done in just 2 days, plus the morning of putting the furniture back. It really turned out better than we could have imagined. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more DIY or home decor videos. We'll see you next time.